I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about when the avoidant finds love. So one of the things that I have talked about since I launched the channel are attachment styles. And one in particular, one that comes up a lot, is an avoidant attachment style. Now, when you're understanding and learning about attachment, you start to see that people have different needs based on their experiences with their caregivers growing up. And the more love and affection they got, the more secure they tend to be. But when you don't get those needs met, it's very traumatizing and it causes a lot of hurt and damage in a lot of ways. And so I can't get into all the complexities of how avoidants are affected in their early childhood, but it comes out in their romantic relationships. And so the interesting thing is that when you first meet an avoidant, they look great. In fact, you think they're secure and confident. But it doesn't take too long before you start to see the issues really come to the surface. And those issues are really effects of neglect and trauma in their early childhood. But depending upon their resiliency and their character and the traumas, it's going to have an impact on how they act in their romantic relationships and in all their relationships, quite frankly. But, I like to give examples so you can see how these things play out. That's why I like to do the email coachings for you guys. You get to see little things that are happening in situations that are often mirroring back into what's happening in your own situation. And you're going to see some examples of how you know you have an avoidant and what they experience when they have love in a situation. Because it can be really, really confusing navigating a breakup because you're so overwhelmed and scared by what you're going through that you can't think clearly. And I can tell you from personal experience that minute, tiny, insignificant things can feel like the end of the world. It feels like your ex is never coming back and that's it, you have no chance. But that's often not the case, especially where you go into a situation where you stop reaching out. Like for me, no contact is simply not reaching out. Some people tell you to ignore your ex. I think that's immature. Now there are maybe some situations where you have to ignore them if they've been breadcrumbing you and you've addressed it and nothing's happening. That's an example. But there are many situations where you just want to act like a mature adult. And so ignoring them is not the right way to go. So when you're trying to figure out these situations, it's obviously very scary and confusing. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to do coaching and help you guys through these situations, because I've been there and I know how excruciatingly painful it can be and how scary and confusing it can be. And that's why I was even going to Margaret 1 or 2 times a week, as often as possible, to talk about my breakup when it happened many, many years ago. Because when you talk about it, you feel a lot better. When you process it and you heal it, that's when you feel a lot better. And I've noticed over the years, more and more people are becoming enlightened to understanding about mental health and attachment. And that's amazing. That's what I love to see. And that's why I have the Creative Healing course and the workbooks. It's all to get you excited about growing and changing and becoming more confident than you've ever become. When you're confident, you can handle things. You can handle the challenges and the difficulties of a relationship. And that includes feeling overwhelmed with your own emotions. But when you've got insecurities that you haven't worked through, they're going to trigger you. They're going to cause a lot of hurt. And you're likely going to do a lot of things that hurt the strength of the attraction. But that's why with my work, everything is focused on healing, which will either help you reattract your ex or attract somebody else. It works for both equally. And that's why I did workbooks and when I came up with them, because I didn't want to put out some corny breakup guide, some corny thing that is just doesn't really explain much because of the complexity of the situation. I wanted to focus on getting you guys to see how to heal your attachment issues and learn the skills to be a great partner, which all of these things teach you confidence and emotional self-control. So when you get in front of your ex and they start to trigger you, and believe me, they will, or you meet new people and you start to really like them and you start to get triggered, and believe me, you will, you know how to navigate it, because behavior is critical to attraction. That's very important to understand. So, I've got a good email coaching today, and this is from a woman in her late 20s and a guy in his early 30s. Okay, so they were together for about a year, and they met through a dating app. She goes on to say that she had 2 relationships prior. Now, he, on the other hand, has had sex with many people, but nothing lasted more than a few dates. That's telling. What does that say about him? It's about lust with strangers. That's not a long-term relationship in any way, right? A couple of dates, you're basically hooking up with people that you barely know. That doesn't transition into an ability to have a long-term relationship or the skills to do it, right? So, she goes on to say, at first, he says he only wanted something casual, which is probably what he told every person he hooked up with. I later learned it's because he has experienced many rejections that he learned to become emotionally detached and only look for sex desperately. Okay, so there's a lot going on with this guy just by reading that all he's looking for is sex and he's desperately doing it. I mean, most women are going to be turned off by him. And of course he's going to get rejected many times. He's basically desperately looking for sex with strangers, and what woman can't get that 25 times a week? So he's just acting like another desperate guy. I tried to open him up with love. In a few months, he cried several times in front of me over his grandma, who he loved, that passed away a few years ago, his parents getting old, and hurtful rejection experience from girls in college. Well, of course women are going to reject him because he's only chasing after sex. Who wants to feel like they're just being used as an object? Especially women when they're getting that all week long, all year long of their life. That's not anything different than what they experience on a constant basis. So yeah, of course they're going to reject him. Who wouldn't reject him? But if he acted, like somebody that he was trying to get to know them and he cares about them and he values them, that's going to be a different story. But that's not the feeling that I'm getting from him here. She says, I'm consistently loving and caring. About 3 months in, he says he loves me, in tears, and that's the first time he felt that way with any girl. Well, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, well, he's never had more than a few dates with any other girl. So how would he know what love is if he's only getting to a couple of dates? He introduced me to his friends, parents, and coworkers. We went on many trips. My parents met his. He said that I made him more confident and happier. All his friends and parents also pointed that out. We really enjoyed each other and never any fights. Okay, so far sounds like it's going pretty good, but remember, he's not had any experience with this before, and he's in his early 30s. Problem. He's unsure if he wants kids. I want one. Okay, This can be a big deal breaker, especially for an avoidant who probably hasn't gotten a lot of love and attention their whole life and didn't see good parenting. So many times somebody like this will say, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad. And that's not a healthy mindset, by the way, right? A healthier mindset is, I want to be the best version of me. I want to be a great father. You see, many times when we say, I don't want something, our unconscious hears want something. Your unconscious doesn't understand no. So when you're telling yourself, I don't want to be a bad father, all your unconscious hears is, I want to be a bad father. And if you don't believe me, look at how many people are out there saying, I don't want to be like my parents, and they wind up exactly like their parents because they haven't laid out a different path. Okay, that's why you got to do the work, guys. Do those workbooks 30 minutes a day. Do that creative healing course 30 minutes a day. That's how you lay a new path for yourself. Okay? It's hard to talk about the future with him. Sure, that's pressure. He's never been on more than a few dates with people. You're together for a year. That's already way longer than he's ever experienced. He thinks of marriage and kids as super stressful things. Well, it's responsibilities and obligations. Kids are a lot of work, takes a lot of sacrifice to be a good parent. You have to be able to, put them first in many cases, regardless of how you're feeling, how tired you are, or whatever may be going on. Because they're children, and you have to help guide them and teach them. After our anniversary, I texted him, I need to know that he has the intention to marry and have kids. All right. So, here it is. Here's a big, huge, scary, terrifying thing for an avoidant. Okay? So, he's not used to love. This is the first time he's experienced it. And now, he's got a woman saying, I need to know your intentions. Are you going to marry me? Are you going to have kids with me? Because that's what I want. And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Instead of dating day by day with no future goal, that if he's unsure, we should be friends until he knows what he wants. So she's kind of friend-zoned herself here, right? Because she's basically said, unless I know that you want a future and that you want kids, we should be friends. What do you think he's going to say to that? We should be friends, right? He thought about it for a week and told me that he's 90% unsure. It gets even more ridiculous. 90% unsure. 4.5% sure that he wants marriage, but unsure about a kid. 4.5% no marriage, no kid, and only 1% wants marriage with kids. I don't know how he derived with these magical percentages here. Obviously, you can't really measure these things, much like a lot of the data these other breakup coaches will tell you. But that's another story. But I mean, it's kind of crazy. But basically, he's saying he is mostly, almost definitely sure that he doesn't want marriage with kids. He said only 1%. Doesn't get much lower than that. Thus, he will be a friend, which is what I could have seen coming. She basically friend-zoned herself when she said that to him. I'm very sad. I went no contact for 2 weeks, realized that if I start dating others, I shouldn't see my ex ever again. So I missed and asked him out. Okay, so it's not really going no contact if you just stop talking for a couple weeks. Don't kid yourself, guys. No contact is not reaching out again. You're saying, I went no contact. No, I took a small break. 2 weeks. That's not no contact. No contact is leaving somebody alone and letting them come back when they're ready. And that's the adult thing to do in many cases. Not every situation, but many cases. We had a great, lighthearted time together. He kept flirting, but nothing physical. Then I suggested seeing him again in 3 days. coming on way too strong for an avoidant. Thinking these are my last few chances of spending time with him. Again, that's a belief that you've created in your mind, and it's going to impact how you handle this breakup. He's hesitant, but agreed, as I insisted. You don't want to insist. You don't want to insist on somebody seeing you or spending time with you. Then I wanted to see him again the same day in the evening. So you saw him. Then you said, I want to see you 3 days from now. Then you said, I want to see you tonight too. Your anxiety is so high and you have no idea of it. You really don't even recognize this. I've been doing this a long time. Not beating you up because I've been there. But you have no idea how your anxiety, is causing you to do things like this. He rejected, saying he thinks I want to get back together and we shouldn't because nothing's changed. And he's right. He is right. They only stopped talking for 2 weeks and she reached out to him. He didn't reach out after a couple weeks saying, I've been doing a lot of thinking and I realize it's 99% chance wanting a kid and marriage and only 1% that I don't. No, that hasn't changed at all. Nothing is different. It's 2 weeks later. She's asked him out. She's asked him out again. And she's asked him to see him again the same night. Anybody want to guess what her attachment style might be? Yep. I insisted driving to him. Boy, she insisted again. I cried hard and said, I'm thinking about being childless and want to get back together. It's not adding up, though, because at no point has he said he wants a child. You may, but that doesn't mean somebody else is going to. He comforted me and said I'm being emotional and should wait at least 6 months to make such important decisions. He's very content with our relationship, but doesn't know where it's going. He suddenly felt an urgency to focus on his hobbies that he stopped doing when we were together. Okay. Well, I don't think it's really about the hobbies as much as he needs space because this is overwhelming him and it's too much pressure. He knows you want a kid. He knows you want marriage and he knows he doesn't want those things. How do you sit with that? You don't want to hurt people, unless you have somebody who really just doesn't care about how you feel. He realized one day, if he were to settle down, he will not have as much time for his hobbies, that he's cutting back on video games to focus on his hobbies, and he doesn't want to be in a relationship right now. No, he doesn't want to be in a relationship with somebody who wants to get married. Had you not wanted to be married and not wanted kids, I don't think this would have ended. But because you're wanting things that are different than him, he's just saying, I don't want a relationship right now. I said, text me when you want a relationship. Okay. That was fair for her to do, but will she stick to it? What do you guys think? And he says, okay. He suggested meeting up every 2 months as close friends. I said, I can't be friends. I have feelings. We hugged. I cried multiple times, and he's also in tears. I'm in no contact again for the last 3 days. What should I do to have the best chance to get back together and stay together? Can I contact him if he doesn't reach out in 6 months? Based on your experience, do you think if and when he will contact me? All right, so there's a lot going on here. Let's start with, what are my chances of getting back together? Okay, so here's the problem. You want kids, you want marriage, and he's 99% sure at this point that he doesn't. One of you is going to be unhappy, okay? Probably you, because I don't think he's going for it. So the problem is, you want these things for yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting a marriage, and there's nothing wrong with wanting kids. But if he doesn't want it, how can you navigate? Okay? He's saying, no, I don't want these things. And you're saying, I want these things. You can't force him to do this. You know, you both aren't going to win here. If he says, I don't want any kids, and you say, well, I'll settle for one, that's still not making him happy. You know what I mean? So you're in a tough situation because you want two very different things. And he knows that. And he's going to want you to be with somebody who can give you those things. You both want different things. And, you know, your next question is, can I contact him if he doesn't reach out in 6 months? Well, you know, how's that going to change anything? It's not going to change anything. I don't understand what will be different if you reach out to him in 6 months. I mean, if he changes his mind and he thinks he wants to get married and have kids, he'll reach out to you. I really think he would. But he knows that he doesn't want that. So he's going to want to stay friends with you. And unless you can change your mind on what you're looking for, I think you guys just don't line up. Because if you're looking at this situation, she says, I want marriage and kids. He says, 99% sure I don't. But I want to stay close friends. She says, nope, can't be friends. Contact me if you change your mind. But then she's saying, but can I contact him in 6 months if I want? But he's like, well, I'll stay friends with you and we can get together every couple of months. So neither of them are going to be happy in this situation because they both want very different things. And I think that if you settle for no marriage, no kids, you're really going to be unhappy. And I don't think he's going to budge on this. So if I was you, I'd leave him alone. Live your life. Heal your attachment issues. You have an anxious attachment style and you got a real avoidant here that you're almost trying to force, or in this case, insist on doing these things with you. And that's about you. And you got to heal that. And if you don't, you're going to turn off other people that you date and you're going to be a slave to your anxiety in a way. So you got to learn to heal your attachment issues and realize that sometimes we can find somebody who's amazing for us, but we don't line up for things like this. Leave him alone. He could change his mind and come back one day, but you can't force somebody to want what you want any more than you could say, I want to go live on Mars and I insist you come with me. If they don't want to go to Mars, they shouldn't go to Mars. You know, so it's a tough situation because I think you both really care about each other and you're clearly the longest relationship he's ever had. And he did tell you he loves you. So leave him alone. Maybe being single for a while, going back to being single and missing you will make him realize, you know what? I never thought about it. But the idea of being without you makes me think, maybe I do want a family. Maybe I do want kids. I never thought I could. But you got to be careful. And you can't ignore that you both are looking for different things here. But I do think you'll hear from him, but I would not reach out to him in 6 months, okay? All right, this is a tough situation, and it's hard to go through this. But when you focus on yourself and growing and healing, it can really change your life and help you see this a lot more clearly and get through this a lot easier, okay? And of course, if you're in a situation like this and you want to talk about it, that's what I'm here for. I do Skype coaching, I do email coaching, and the only way to get it is through my website, askcraig.net. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you, but that's it for this one. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth, and I will talk with you soon.